Should I leave?
No, it's all right. No. Don't leave.
Okay.
Like
this.
Oh, that's good.
I'm going to need another shot.
You want one more?
Yeah, really.
Oh, he's got a little camera shot.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That's the opposite of camera shot.
Horror.
No, really. I mean,
we both went to the. We went to the
That's so horse shaming. You guys are like the worst people.
Do you understand how amazing
does everything have to be a horror? You know, if you aren't shy,
if you really
then you're
like
a whore.
Doing something.
Yeah,
first
if you
of
just
all,
enjoy it and you're good at
you're a whore.
First of all,
why are you a whore?
Yeah, what do you have against whores?
No, I don't think it's a bad. I don't think it says anything bad about whores.
Every now and then in my life, living this life, I get to wake up and say to myself, "Well, this is weird. I'm kind of doing this now, but at least I'm not Bill Cosby."
Oh God.
You've been able to do that for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean,
or Donald Sterling.
Every person who's in a controversy that's public that you just get to say, at least
no,
I'm
but
not
and we call it hubris. I mean, we just call it hubris.
And that's actually good. Maybe that could be the way we should all be waking up in the morning.
I don't like it. I wake up and I don't think about Bill Cosby.
All right, so now I have to say something. So
hello.
Right. We're on this bus, which belongs to Jimi Giannatti, in a backyard of Tucson, and
that's all you get to know. Yeah. Don't ask any more questions.
I think there's legal issues involved, actually.
So this is drinking with, but we're not drinking at a bar. We're drinking actually on Jimi Giannatti's bus, and this is Bryan Saunders.
Hello.
So, and people know Bryan in Tucson because he has a bum knee. No, it's not why they know Bryan. Because he's a writer, he's a poet and musician and all those good things. Oh, and he's a computer guru.
Don't say that.
Okay, I won't. And Jimi is a photographer. We've did 9 questions with Jimi. Yeah. And he's pretty cool photographer. If you see his stuff on Zocalo, you'll know why. He's so cool. So you're welcome. But we're here to talk kind of semi-serious about Amy and Derrick Ross and Whiskey Man and Nowhere Girl and the upcoming Lupus Foundation.
Actually, Nowhere Man,
oh, jeez,
Louise. Because we always call them Eric and Damie, by the way.
Oh my God,
that was totally perfect. That's great.
What did I say?
You said, I think,
Whiskey Man and Nowhere Girl.
Oh man,
which is okay, which is totally appropriate.
That's better.
You think it is better? Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. Let's see. I think that's one of the reasons why some people have to maybe check their notes or something before they actually say anything or something comes out of their mouth to remind themselves of.
Well, I mean, again, also, we do, honestly, I have a t-shirt that we're going to make that says Eric and Damie because we call them that all the time.
It happens a lot.
It has, cool. It's 2 people that were completely interlocked and you could change them either way.
Their names,
yeah, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes it was hard to tell them apart. You'd be like, "Hey, Amy," and Derrick would be like, "It's me, Derrick."
I don't think that happened at
"Oh,
all.
it is you. It's totally Derrick. It's not Amy." Wow.
Somehow, I don't think that's the case.
I think in Bryan's world it was that.
Yeah,
I was doing a lot of Quaaludes at that time.
They don't make Quaaludes anymore.
Oh, well, something equivalent to
the equivalent of Quaaludes. Yeah.
I'm selling him things.
I think you have to get them from Germany or something. That would be the case. So we're here to talk about there's an auction going on to raise money in their memory, going on online up until a benefit show that's happening on December 6th. Where is the benefit show?
Well, we're gonna have 2 shows this year.
2 shows.
We have an acoustic show.
We have an acoustic show at
Cafe Passe.
Oh, that's cool.
And we have an electric show full. The acoustic show has singer-songwriters, acoustic, playing guitar.
The acoustic show has singer-songwriters, acoustic people, playing guitar.
Okay. Okay. See how clever I am? I know what you're doing now. And then the electric show at the Flycatcher, which was the former Plush, which was one of the joints they loved playing. Yeah. We had the benefit last year there when it was still Plush. Are going to have bands, and we have over 30 bands playing at both places.
Wow.
And all the bands are from Arizona. They're from Sedona, Tempe, Tucson, Phoenix.
Do all the bands have some connection to Amy?
They do, and maybe indirect ways. Like I guess the most oblique way would be Decker, who's from Sedona, had just released his CD at the time that had a song called Shadow Days, that when Keli Carpenter of the Tryst, who we love and very big part of this whole thing, when she put together a show for Bryan's play for David Foster Wallace.
David Foster Wallace play.
She made a band for Derrick and Amy called Kiss the Killer.
Oh yeah, right.
And that was one of the #1 songs they were going to learn.
That
and
was right
Amy
before she got sick, though.
yeah,
it actually killed Amy putting together that
No.
Kiss the Killer. It was prophetic.
Get out of here.
All in there in the language.
Yeah. You can see which one's the Joker. So the fact that Amy and Derrick were learning the song Shadow Days has a connection to the whole thing. And that was literally when she became sick.
Right.
Was during the making of the creation of that band.
Right.
That's one of the weird things about the whole deal is it happened really fast, even though she was sick for so long. Right? Like she deteriorated
She
really
had
quickly.
lupus. What makes lupus a little sleazy, little horrible, sneaky disease is that you don't die of lupus.
Right.
You die of a blood disorder. You die of kidney failure. You die of liver failure. You die of immunity deficiencies. And so it never says death by lupus.
Right.
Whereas lung
it's
cancer
all the other things.
is all the other things. Right. And she used to do a show in Bisbee where she did a Wednesday night solo show, and her birthday was on 9/11, and she texted me to put out a poster to tell people that she wasn't going to be able to perform that night because it was her birthday. That night I asked her how her birthday was going, and she sent me back a text that it was a horrible birthday because she had gotten the flu, and she passed away on October 14th. Mm. So it was literally a month.
Wow.
And which, having now I know much more about lupus than I did at the time, there was a really good chance that she could have maybe passed away in a very long, languishing year of her organs systematically
shutting down at different times.
Which Derrick was fully aware of. And so, I mean, it's one of those weird things I have to say, it's like you're kind of glad that it was kind of a quick turnaround, but it was shocking. And last year at this time, we were in shock. When we threw the show, a lot of people thought it might be too early, but it was almost, one of the things about the show is it's something that Bryan and Keli and myself and our friend Sarah Mega, it helps us deal with the loss. It allows us to focus, and put, energy towards it because we're still kind of wondering.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always noticed, like, on Facebook with you and stuff, and especially this past year, the 1-year anniversary, is that, it wasn't obviously an anniversary that came with ease, for you especially. And I just wonder, like, what is it for you? What is it you really loved Amy so much, and that is always so obvious. And what is it about them, and what in particular Amy, that you just fell in love with?
Well, I mean, everything. I mean, Derrick and Amy, anybody that ever saw them instantly fell in love with them. And in fact, one of the great things about them was I was privileged enough to live in Bisbee with them when they would perform almost every Saturday night at the Copper Queen Hotel. And it became kind of like our living room, and they were like the fireplace in the living room. We could go there, and they would be performing. And I'd watch this.
Sounds like what you were talking about with Ojai.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'd watch this thing happen with, you'd have somebody come in that was just staying at the hotel, and Amy and Derrick would be playing, and they'd be talking about the daily events and kind of loudly, and then the second song they'd be kind of talking about it, glancing over and going, well, that's kind of cool. I like what they're doing. And by the third song they're going, shh, hold on, I want to hear this band. And by the fifth song they're out there buying a CD. I was like, they win you over like that. And to have, because of her lupus at that time, and then the last 6-7 years of her life, she was tethered to the dialysis in Sierra Vista. It was every other day. It was, 4:35 in the morning. She'd have to get up and drive 35, 40 miles to get this done. And so it prevented them, like any other normal band in that part of their career, to tour. So they were Arizona was really their sphere, and coming to Tucson or Phoenix or playing, especially in Bisbee, and to recognize their talent, to sit down. My first time I heard them, I did the same thing. I was talking to my friend, and oh yeah, they're really good. And then by the third song, I'm going, shut up, I want to hear this, And to have such a world class voice that Amy had, and to hear these songs that were so well written and so well performed in these little places like Delectables or Cafe Passe or, Copper Queen Hotel. It was like being privy to watching Bonnie Raitt or someone like that, Nora Jones, and I would put her on that level of vocalists. And so
it turned into remembering them the last year, that show. Now, though, and that show, I know you guys put the proceeds towards the Lupus Foundation as well. But now it seems like you guys are really more in tune with lupus and what can we do? What can we, let's turn this really into not just remembering these guys, but let's turn this into a full-on fundraiser for this foundation.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the silliest part about them being dead is like nobody gets to see them play anymore.
Well, yeah.
And their music, they were so big on their music, like that was their reason for waking up, And last year's show was definitely like, all right, everybody that was involved was
somehow
connected to them and knew them. There's a lot of that going on this year, but it's like, for instance, is the Bisbee Slim record. Right, which Derrick made as a sort of an ode to his love for Beyonce, and it's what he calls a Southern stalker hop.
Yeah,
and it's this amazing record, and all you can say about it after you listen to it is, wow, more people should hear this record, right? So it would really suck if it didn't, have that treatment. We do want people to hear the music. We'd love to be able to sell their records.
So how is that part of the show? That you're going to be selling their records?
No, but we do want to turn recordings of the show into something we can sell, make more money.
Will people there be singing songs that...
Sure, okay. Absolutely. There'll be a lot of... I'll be doing a few Bisbee Slim songs. Some other people will be doing...
We're very lucky this year.
Northern Whiskey Girl songs.
This year we actually have Amy's sister, Lindy Minnick, who's coming in, and she wrote the song Tumbleweed, which is one of their most favorite songs. People love that song. And so she'll be performing that live. And so but it's not relegated necessarily. It's also a lot of bands are playing. Again, last year, everybody that was playing last year had a direct 1-degree connection with Amy and Derrick. This year we have people that just performed with them, that have been inspired by them, and we'd like to keep it going because their legacy. Last year, again, the way they died, and I think a lot of people, if you don't know how they died, there's plenty of articles.
Right.
And you did a great article on them. I was really happy to see it. Some of the locals were a little more sensational because of the narrative that people wanted to attach to
how it happened.
Yeah,
right.
And we, as good friends of theirs, we kind of get upset people that attach too much importance to the way they died and not to how they lived.
Right.
And
just stripping down, it's like that narrative that people throw at us, and they have done it a lot, in little ways. It's like it strips the whole thing of its personhood. Like, it might look romantic if you remove all the details about it being actual people who are really dead,
right? That you were close to, and I think that's always a good thing to keep in mind when things do happen like that. That are thinking about the people that are close to them, and how do they want to see something written about those people, rather than it being sensationalized.
And the story is what it is. I mean, the facts are what they are, but to take those facts and just make the the jump to conclusions Matt move of well, then I also know this other story that the facts kind of line up with. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not fucking Romeo and Juliet. It's not romantic, It sucked.
I posted a photo of them online right after they passed away, and it got a lot of on Facebook, and it got a lot of, people posting and posting and posting, and about the 159th post. And again, I won't share who it was because I have no idea who it was, but I'm sure she was so well-meaning.
Yeah.
But she said, in, reference to their love for each other, she said, we should all be so lucky. And I was like, oh no, right. I don't think they would ever say they were lucky at that point. It was it was a tragedy. It is a tragedy. I mean, what happened to them was a tragedy. Amy wanted to live. I saw her in the hospital, and she wanted to live. And Derrick, the reason why we shared Derrick with the idea of Amy and Derrick have been taken by lupus is because Derrick would have never passed away had it not been for lupus. I mean, if Amy was alive, Derrick would be alive, which also highlights how things like cancer and diseases like this,
rip apart more than just the person who has the disease.
Absolutely. Right? And her family and her sister and all of us are still reeling in that, and they're.
But I think Bryan brings up something really important is that, you can have these things and go and raise money for lupus and have a thing once a year that where you remember them. But the point really is the music. I mean, it is remembering them as friends, and that doesn't take away with that. But what good is all of that without remembering the music that you loved so much as well?
And let's face it, they were shitty friends. They were just no, they were wonderful friends. They were amazing friends. And actually, Jimmy's being modest because the reason he fell in love with Amy is she makes an amazing shrimp casserole.
Oh, really?
And Jimmy has meat is murder. It's tattooed on his arm. But his one indulgence
is this shrimp casserole.
Is this amazing shrimp casserole.
Seriously, you guys pulling my leg.
Like most things with Bryan, I'm learning this for the first time.
Full of it.
Which is okay. Which is the way I love him. But I love the idea that, it's kind of like, if we can go back to reality. No, the one thing, we both know about them is, and again, going back to when I was talking about when people would listen to their stuff, and like Bryan, when I would go out and visit, for a while they lived in Wilcox, and I would go out and visit them in Wilcox, and it was very remote. It was at the end of a road, and it was so spooky. It was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to get murdered when I went out there. It was so remote. And all throughout their house was affirmations that they had printed up saying, we make our money, we pay our rent making music. We don't have a day job. We play music. Right. They were so proud that they could exist and live and make their car payments and their rent by playing music. And so when they were still alive, there's a video on YouTube called If Only I. And it had, I think, 400 and something, views. And now that they've passed away, it's 77,000. And I know Derrick would just be over the moon, because getting their music to people was the one thing, like all artists, they don't care if you like it or dislike it. They just want you to hear it and judge it on your own. And keeping that alive is really important to us right now.
Is that something that's for reals and not about shrimp casserole that you guys will try and put their music out again, you think? Or?
We don't have any rights to like the stuff they, that all kind of passed on in a different way. But certainly the recordings we make of this upcoming show and stuff like that we'll put out.
Okay.
And then, it is a nice fantasy to think about trying to push that stuff because it's so good and under-pushed. It's like they never got the chance. I mean, 2 amazing records. Bisbee Slam is an amazing record. All 3 of those records stand on their own as musical documents, of how good these musicians were and how creative and inventive and different. Like, definitely somebody who just with it's very simple musicianship, right? It's a piano, it's double tracking the vocals here and there, and it's a guitar, and the songwriting, and then the ability to craft other people's songs into these new experiments was world class, absolutely world class. And that's a great dream, but I don't, I'm not even thinking about that. One funny thing about when they died, it was like we threw ourselves immediately into a Dia de los Muertos parade.
Right.
And so it was really like distraction. It was like we could do that and then plan this show. So it was only like, for me at least, it was like January or February before I really thought about the whole thing. too much.
Well, and also this last year, I was speaking to her sister recently, and for all of us, this has been the first year with a friend or a sister or a loved one, where you say, oh, this is the first Christmas I haven't been with them. Right. Or this is, and she shares a birthday with Lindy, so her whole life was always sharing her birthday. So this last year especially has been really hard because everything would be, oh, this is the first time, the monsoons. I remember with Derrick and Amy, the monsoons. And so, we're learning to get over that. And like everything, it's not them. Their narrative, their story is over. The book's been written on them. Death always affects the people who live and has to deal with it, who are, pathetic mortal lives, And so, the thing is, they'll always be their age. They'll always be beautiful. They'll always be talented. They'll always be in love, So, but for us to have to move on, and it's helping me a lot. And again, I'll just reiterate being able to pour the energy into this and to make one thing I would like to point out is, unlike the ALS challenge, and I'm not throwing shade in that at all, but there's all sorts of reports of how much corporate, how much money they spend. The money that we are raising goes directly to Southern Arizonans who are of modest income, who are first diagnosed of having lupus, to get them doctor visits, medication, and literature. So it's going directly. It's not going into buying, vinyl banners for bike races or anything like that. And it's going right here in Southern Arizona, and it's going to be going directly to help people immediately, which I know they would really approve of. That's cool. Amy's the only human being in the world that could call me periodically over and over again at 5 a.m. on her way to Sierra Vista to get dialysis, and I wouldn't be angry. And I'd be talking to her. And I remember her many times. She would just be laying, we'd do like a hello, good night moon. Yeah. She'd be getting her dialysis, and I'd tell her to start from the left and describe everything in the room for hours. We'd just say on the phone, because, she had to do this every other day. And it's like, and she'd said every single time the needle went into her arm, it hurt as much as the first time. Mm-hmm. And these are stories. Of course, she didn't want anybody to know that she had lupus either. So
she was tough.
She was tough that way. She didn't want people to judge her.
Did she have as wicked a sense of humor as it seemed she did on stage?
Oh, yeah. She was a viper.
Oh, yeah.
Vicious.
We should touch on this.
In a sweet and loving way and blah, 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 but she was a badass.
She had a bite.
We should revisit this the way it was announced that Amy died. It was on Doug Stanhope's page, if you remember. Yeah. And if you don't know the story, it's well documented. Derrick had done a podcast. There's 2 podcasts with Doug. Yeah. Doug Stanhope and Bingo were very, very close friends. Close friends. They lived literally next door to Doug, and they had a entrance cut in between the gates so that they could visit each other with ease. And anybody that knows Doug Stanhope's humor, a lot of people were very critical of Doug, thinking that maybe he was maybe a little abrasive or a little, exploitive of their death. And anybody that knew Derrick and Amy knew that Doug's, timid next to Derrick and Amy's humor. It's like they could give as much as they could get, and so that's part of the legacy that we want to make, to bring out there, that they weren't these, Romeo and Juliet that Bryan brought up before.
Well, the stage play was totally authentic. Like, they were like that. It was like a coalesced, bubbling version of it, and it was like you're looking at it happening and stuff like that. But they were totally like that. They were really in love together, and anytime you're in a band, I can't even imagine what it's like to be in love with somebody you're in a band with. Yeah. So that's a whole nother level of intensity. But the little shtick they pulled off up there was, was
the banter
real.
Between them.
It was totally real.
Yeah. You can go to KXCI.
KXCI, yeah. Dr. Dan did a show.
Dr. Dan did a show, and it's online. It's in the archives, and it's really fun to listen to. And Dr. Dan brings up a point that I love is he brings up the banter and how he goes, it's my favorite part sometimes of the show is watching the banter between you. And again, they would bicker. He'd call it bickering. I love it when you guys bicker, And near the end of it, he says, okay, we have time for one more. And they weren't prepared to do one more song. They had their song list for the show already figured out. So Amy says, so Derrick, what do you want to do? And Derrick instantly says, Syrup and Honey. And Amy goes, well, maybe we should do something off the CD. Now Derrick, knowing Derrick as well as I did, would go like, I just told you Syrup and Honey.
Let's do it.
You're making me look like an idiot, And he goes, no, let's do it. And Dr. Dan starts chuckling, and I wanted to scream through the radio going, oh no, this is not pretend bickering now. This is real. And often you'd see the real bickering coming in there and with the mixed bickering, but none of that was staged. And that was part of the romance and why people would fall madly in love. You knew this. I mean, Bryan saw this because Bryan got to see them in Bisbee and here in Tucson and at parties and, in the shows. But the way they were on stage was exactly how they were with you. Yeah. And the friendships they garnered through their live shows, they would instantly make fast friends and just amazing relationships with people that saw them, and that's why when they passed away, there was such this shock and outpouring of love. And sometimes I have to say to people, sometimes I want to say to them, it's like, every time you saw them, they were getting paid.
Right.
But it made you feel, and they really felt that way. There was nothing phony about them whatsoever.
You felt like you could take them home with you afterwards.
Everybody felt that way.
Yeah. There's a quote about Bob Dylan. Yeah. Everybody wanted to do drugs with Bob. Everybody wanted to make music with Bob, and everybody wanted to fuck Bob. Yeah. And it's the same. They're kind of like that.
Well, Bisbee Slim lyric.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
he has a lyric that says,
"Oh yeah, everybody wants to fuck Amy."
And it's like, and again, and by the way, I have a picture that circulated online because I posted it, I guess, of them about to kiss.
Right.
I was never allowed to use that when they're alive. Sue me. Come on. Oh. I was never allowed to use that.
Be careful when you're asleep, is what I would tell you.
Because they were very vehemently, like, they love the idea of people. Because again, the one thing I loved about Derrick and Amy was about their career. They were very, very conscientious about garnering more fans and bringing more people. And they loved the idea that people didn't sometimes know they were married or brothers and sisters, or they were just dating, or, and every man would fall in love with Amy, and, girls had crushes on. So they loved the ambiguity.
Derrick, let's be honest, Derrick's no schlub. I mean, he's a cutie pie.
Very good looking.
So.
Oh, I saw one night.
Boyish face, those boyish charms and good looks.
I saw one night at Hot Mix, and these girls were just overtly just fawning over Derrick, and Amy was okay about it. She was cool, but they were talking to him during the songs, and Derrick goes, you got to watch out because she'll say something really rude, and because you don't want to make make Amy mad. And the girls go like, oh, what's she gonna say? And Amy goes, no, you don't want to make me mad because I'd say something about that sweater you're wearing. And the girl just instantly shut down and just cut to the quick, It's like.
Y'all later now?
You leaving?
Yeah, I'm gonna head downtown for the show.
Kelly's leaving.
What show are you going to?
Carlos and the Kind Souls. We're playing at the.
Kelly, come around this way and say hi.
You can be on this thing.
Come around.
What is it?
Come.
For Amy.
Should we introduce it, Kelly?
For Kelly.
Did you make my drink?
Yes, I did.
I think that's disingenuous.
That she did, but she didn't bring it with you.
Come in.
What's going on?
This is the third part of the wheel. Miss Keli Carpenter.
What's happening?
There she is.
We'll
This bus has many entrances.
There's a podcast right now?
Well, it's not live, that's for sure.
Great. What's up?
We're talking about Derrick and Amy.
Everyone, this is Pickles.
Good to meet you.
Say what up.
What up?
So you're going to go see Carlos and the Kind Souls?
I'm in the band.
Oh, that's right. So what's up? Where's the show at?
Congress outside 7:45.
Cool.
Free, all ages.
Ooh.
The plug.
So tell us 3 minutes about Derrick and Amy.
Well, so you've been working really hard on the auction.
Everything.
I mean, really kicking ass on the auction.
Thank you.
She's an ass kicker.
Well,
that's kind of what she does.
She's
imagine you are.
She's our Willow.
Dealing with these guys.
Right? Me too. Job in itself.
We pay her very well to put up with us.
Kind of have
we
to that's not the
we
case.
didn't pay her last month. Forget about it. Ixnay on the A and the
Yeah.
So what's cool about this auction? Tell us what's cool. And
What's cool?
Yeah, I mean, what should we know about this auction? And
Well, I mean, I would say that Tucson, part of the reason I love it is because it's full of artists, right? Some of the most amazing ones that I've ever met. So the auction is a collection of just people.
Lots of art.
Lots of
cool
art.
Handmade.
Mostly art, actually, just because I'm an artist and I know a lot of others, so it's easy to network that way.
So you're able to twist some arms and
not even like
no?
everyone given not
That's
even
cool.
twisting arms. Like people have just openly given, to be a part of the
What's the website for the online auction?
It's nmwg.org.
Okay.
So yeah, the charity page is there. The auction's up.
Okay.
We're adding more stuff every day for another week maybe, and then we'll stop accepting donations and just let it.
But the
run.
auction will be open for bidding for a week after the show.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's the 13th of December.
Midnight. Yes.
All right. Midnight, December 13th.
And we have a lot of different things. We also have like a weekend in Bisbee where you get dinner at the stock exchange, you get breakfast at the quarry, and then you get to stay overnight at the Shady Dell.
Right.
And these are, this is,
it's a good package.
That's
a
great
lot of
package.
different.
I know.
We should have kept that for ourselves and bid on it, Amy and Derrick. Don't get mad at us when you're watching this.
That's pretty cool. All right. So last question would be, to me, I was thinking of what you were talking about, about the sensationalism of how people, this Romeo and Juliet tale, and instead, thinking about their music, but also how should we live in terms of their memory? I mean, how do you... Who
the hell knows? That's the $1 billion question. And I was actually telling somebody it never ends, right? It's like, it just becomes... The really dangerous thing is I don't ever want to and I've had friends die before, is you don't want them to just be like another stepping stone towards you becoming a more glorious human being, right? Like their story is not just a lesson for you or me or anybody else. Like the part of the bread that they're on, the whole time-space continuum thing, that's still there, right? They're still there. Like Jimi said, they're still good looking, they're still sexy, they're still funny, they're still great musicians. That's all still going on. So for me, the weird part about it is like it doesn't end. There is no coda. There is no endpoint. There is no summing up, right? It's there. It's this raw wound that you try and like patch over with activity and memory, but it's still raw.
Yeah, if I can add to that, like they were the real deal. They were the real deal. They lived to write music, to play music, to sing. They were artists. They were real artists. And because of her, the lupus, because of her, she had a finite time, and it's really rare to meet somebody that like a, carton of milk has an expiration date on their forehead. But they lived every life, and Amy and Derrick were exemplary as far as teaching me to be deliberate and not to take advantage, or not to look around and that they were authentic. They were loving. Amy hated people that fought because she knew that she just had a little time and she didn't have time for bullshit. They didn't have time for nonsense. They were outgoing. They were loving. So they were really role models for me. And, I've had quite the grudge with, whoever runs this whole mess. Life. Yeah, because they took two of the best people I ever have met in my life, who was just giving gifts every weekend with their music and their charm. And those were the people, it's like, there's so many more I could have gave them names to take, it's like,
really.
but not
you
them.
Taken?
Yeah, it's like, Bill Cosby. But anyway, it's like.
Oh, he's on Bill Cosby right now.
This week. This week.
Only this 1 week. Next week it'll be.
And what would you say, Kelly?
Go.
About what? How we live life?
Yeah, do you, we were talking about like their music and keeping that memory, but also just how you go forward in life. Do you like, I guess, it's like, do you write down what would Whiskey Girl and what would this?
No, I certainly don't write it down.
I know. What would they do? But,
no, I mean, I felt really akin in living life with them. Like we came from the same family. of people I
Keli
felt
was
connected.
born in the same hospital.
Yeah, me and Amy were born in the same hospital in
Wyoming,
Montana, in
Yes.
Billings, Montana, in the 70s. Yeah, like 2 years apart.
Wow.
So, anyway, from day one, we just were in it. I felt like they were my family.
And you got to perform with them.
Yeah, and I sang
sing
with Amy. She's definitely like in the top, 5 of any people I've ever opened my mouth and sang with. So, I feel connected to them even, without them living on the planet. I'm sad that I can't squeeze them anymore. And I kind of felt like the time we did have together, there was something in me that knew that all along anyway, that they would be gone somehow. But I'm an optimist, so I thought never. So anyway, I go on, with them always in my heart. Like I want to continue to learn and sing their songs and share their music with people. Because that was, to me, one of the best gifts that they gave is this ability to weave a song. And
you're going to be performing
do it together
at the show.
Absolutely.
What are you going to be singing?
Well, I'm going to do a couple of songs at the acoustic set at Passe with Carlos, some of our favorite Nowhere Man Whiskey Girl tunes that we'd like to play. And then, for the electric set, we're teaming up with Sweet Ghost and the Kind Souls and the Big Dream, and all of our bands are going to just do one delicious half hour of songs that evoke their memory or their songs themselves or whatever. We're still in, top secret meetings about this set we're going to do. But yeah, that should be a lot of fun.
And can I also add publicly and on the record how grateful we all are, because all the bands, we have bands again coming from Sedona, Tempe, Tucson. We have Dry River Yacht Club. That's 8 different people that, they get paid a lot of money to perform. They're all coming for free. And none of us, anybody we asked, never even hesitated. They just showed up. The camaraderie between, we have Terry Wolf and Donna Keel from Bisbee. We have all the Tucson musicians, and the fact how gracious they've been with their time and their talent, and how it's just Laura Kepner, Adney, Courtney Robbins. They're all playing, a lot of them are only playing 2 songs, but they all feel a sense of privilege, and to be able to pay homage and to add to this cause and raise money for such a worthy cause. And it's really, really, again, I can't imagine 2 other people instilling this sort of camaraderie than Derrick and Amy. I really do mean that.
At this point, I guess we can say you guys will. This is going to be an annual thing that we'll have from you, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, that time of year rolls around and we're like, oh, well.
We better start.
We're trying to make sure none of us dies, because it'll become a much more unwieldy show. It'll be like,
Okay, what other music do we have to add to this?
So much more stuff, and it's a bigger auction, and the float is a nightmare logistically. So we're trying to stay healthy.
Well, please, yeah. I mean,
you get like a minute at Passe. Yeah, I give you an hour at Passe. I get like 2 acoustic guitar players to play like 1 hour on a Tuesday night,
but on a different day,
as well as me. I mean, it's like I love you.
You're a gentleman and a person.
Not always in that order, by the way.
No, usually not. He hasn't had his casserole. I told you he loved that casserole.
You're just full
Y'all is crazy. Okay, I gotta go to the show,
right.
y'all.
Okay.
Take care. We're done pretty much. So, all right.
And that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Done.
This is
And
going
your
to
drinks
be
in there.
Really?
longer than usual.